Morning. Today we're going to be in John chapter 6, verses 22 through 40. John 6, 22 through 40. On the following day, when the people who were standing on the other side of the sea saw that there was no other boat there except the one which his disciples had entered, and that Jesus had not entered the boat with his disciples, but his disciples had gone away alone. However, other boats came from Tiberias near the place where they ate bread after the Lord had given thanks. When the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, nor his disciples, they also got into boats and came to Capernaum, seeking Jesus. And when they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, "Rabbi, when did you come here?" Jesus answered them and said, "Most assuredly, I say to you, you seek me not because you saw the signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were filled. Do not labor for food which perishes, but for the food which endures to everlasting life, which the Son of Man will give you, because God the Father has set his seal on him." When they said this to him, then they said to him, "What shall we do that we may work the works of God?" Jesus answered and said to them, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he sent." Therefore they said to him, "What sign will you perform then, that we may see it and believe you? What work will you do? Our fathers ate the manna in the desert, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat." Then Jesus said to them, "Most assuredly, I say to you, Moses did not give you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." Then they said to him, "Lord, give us this bread always." And Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me and yet do not believe. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will by no means cast out. For I have come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. This is the will of the Father who sent me, that of all things he has given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up at the last day. And this is the will of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day." Now, we know from our study passages that prior to this is when Jesus had gone up away from the crowds. He knew that they were seeking him. They wanted to make him king. He withdrew from them. He went up to the mountain to be alone. His disciples got on a boat, headed off to Capernaum, and a few hours later, massive storm kicks up. They look up and see Jesus walking to them out on the water. I don't know about you, but if I just saw someone walking across the water, I'd probably have a heart attack or think I was going crazy. And that's why it says they were afraid. But Jesus assured them, "It's me, don't be afraid." And they received him into the boat, and they were instantaneously where they were heading to. But now, here we see what happens after this, verse 22 through 25. On the following day, when the people who were standing on the other side of the sea saw that there was no other boat there except the one which the disciples had entered, and that Jesus had not entered the boat with his disciples, but the disciples had gone away alone. However, other boats came from Tiberias near the place where they had ate bread after the Lord had given thanks. When the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, nor his disciples, they also got into boats and came to Capernaum, seeking Jesus. And when they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, "Rabbi, when did you come here?" So just like these other people who couldn't figure out who this guy was walking on water, these people are confused too. Like, we just saw what happened. You weren't with them on that boat. They left without you. You headed off somewhere. How did you get there? What's happening here? What's this all about? They had no idea how this was possible. Verses 26 and 27, Jesus answered and said, "Most assuredly I say to you, you seek me, not because you saw the signs, but because you ate the loaves and were filled. Do not labor for food which perishes, but for the food which endures for everlasting life, which the Son of Man will give you, because God the Father has set his seal on him." Now, like I mentioned before, sometimes to understand a passage, we need to read what happens before it, sometimes what happens after it. It's good to read the whole chapter. It's good to read the whole thing. But reading the immediate things before and after it helped give some context. He's talking about them eating the loaves that were filled. right before this story, backing up a little bit more, right before they went out on the boat without him, was the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus had 5,000 people amassed around to listen to him, and they needed food. Somebody needed to feed them, or they were going to just go hungry. And they didn't have 5,000 people worth of food. They didn't have truckloads of relief aid showing up. They didn't have FBC disaster relief there making meals. They didn't have much at all. They had 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And Jesus took those 5 loaves of bread and those 2 fish, 2 little fish, not that it should matter, big fish would sound impossible. He took this little bit of food and he managed to feed 5,000 people with it. And I can't think of anyone apart from God who could do that. But he says, you seek me not because you saw the signs, because you ate of the loaves and were filled. Now, what's he talking about? You saw the signs. You know, the Bible talks about signs and wonders. He's talking about the miracle he performed. He's talking about the fact that he proved to them that he is God. He is the Son of God. He has power beyond anything we could ever comprehend. You saw the signs, but that's not the reason that you're looking for me. You're looking for me because you want something from me. You ate that bread and you were filled. You got your belly full. You got something from me. We need to think about our motives in seeking Jesus. It says, do not labor for food which perishes, but for the food which endures to everlasting life, which the Son of Man will give you, because God the Father has set his seal on him. God has given him authority and power. And I want us to think really hard about something here. I want us to really think about this. Would you still follow Jesus if there was nothing in it for you in this life? Would you still follow Jesus if there was not one single benefit to you before death? You still get heaven, you still get eternity with him, but in the meantime, we get nothing from him. Would you still follow him? Think about how hard this would be. You got no Holy Spirit within you to give you guidance, to give you comfort, to steer you in the right direction, to convict you. We'd have no spiritual gifts. We wouldn't have any of that peace from above that transcends anything the world can give us peace with. We wouldn't have his promise to be with us always. Could you still commit to Jesus? Could you still commit to serving him? Could you commit to a life of integrity? Would you still want to come to church? Would you still praise him? Would you still give offerings to him? Really think about that. I'd love to say that I still would. But knowing how mankind is, we might become bitter. I don't know. But I want us to think about the fact that he does bless us with all these things. Think about how ugly that sounded to have all those things taken away. Do we maybe take them for granted? How much more special does that feel knowing that we do have them when he doesn't have to give them to us? He does it because he loves us. You know, he blesses us with all these things, and all they cared about was getting some bread. How badly did they miss the point? How often do we miss the point? You know, we may not live these kinds of thoughts, but I'm sure at times we have them. You know, we lose sight of things and we focus on our personal wants and needs more than the eternal things. We focus on, well, it says that which perishes, the food that perishes. We gotta be careful not to focus too much on the perishable. That's a dangerous road to go down. On temporary things. We got to stop focusing on things that perish, and we got to keep our eyes on the eternal. When my eyes are on the eternal, I'm not worried about a single temporary thing. And it's not that he doesn't bless us with those as well. You know, he gives us the temporary things. He gives us the perishable things. He's given me plenty of bread. I've eaten plenty of loaves and was filled. He does bless us with those things. But he was pointing out to them, you know, that's where your focus is. You need to not focus on the food that perishes. You need to focus on the food that endures to everlasting life, which the Son of Man, Jesus, will give you, because God the Father has set his seal on him. He's given him that power and authority too. Verse 28, 29. And then they said to him, what shall we do that we may work the works of God? Jesus answered and said to them, this is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he sent. They wanted to serve God. I'm being kind of hard on him here. Jesus is being hard on him. But let's be clear. These weren't just wicked people who wanted nothing to do with God and were just pure selfishness. They wanted to serve him. They weren't just hateful, wicked, anti-God people. They were just like us. They needed some guidance and direction. They needed some godly wisdom. They needed some understanding about what Jesus' true purpose was. They needed some understanding about what really matters. What's he say in verse 29? And he answered and said to them, this is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he sent. Jesus is saying, you want to do God's work? Believe in me, because I want to work in you. That's the most important thing that they could do. And it's the most important thing we can do, is put our trust in him. That doesn't mean we aren't to serve him. It says, what shall we do that we may work the works of God? We still have purposes. We still have things that God has planned for our lives. There are still ways that we're supposed to serve. We should be eager to serve. But ultimately, most importantly, we need to have faith in Jesus. We need to believe in him. We need to put our trust in him. We need to put our trust in him because just like those people on that boat, we receive him and he gets us to safety. He's trustworthy. Verse 30 through 33. Therefore they said to him, what sign will you perform then, that we may see it and believe you? What work will you do? Our fathers ate the manna in the desert, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said to them, most assuredly I say to you, Moses did not give you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. They're asking for a sign. What did we say a sign was? They want a miracle. They're saying, okay, we want to believe. We want to believe you. We want to believe in you here. So do something. Impress me. Give me a reason to believe you. Did they not just watch him take 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish and feed 5,000 people? He didn't do a card trick for them. You know, that'd be like the church having a potluck. Every member we have having a potluck. And when we get in there, everybody gets 1 Lay's potato chip, but you don't get to finish it. That's about the equivalent of what this food would have been like starting out, and he made that enough for everybody. They're saying, God gave our fathers bread. They were wandering in the desert. God gave it to them. Can you do that? Can you do anything like that? Jesus is saying, I am the bread. You just don't get it. The bread of life. Verse 34. And they said to him, Lord, give us this bread always. And Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. But I say to you that you have seen me, and yet you do not believe. All that the Father gives to me will come to me, and the one who comes to me, I will by no means cast him out. They still didn't get it. They knew that they believed that there was this bread of life, and they knew that they wanted it. Yeah, give us that all the time. He's like, no, it's me. I am the bread of life. I'm the one who can do these things for you. I'm the one who can make it so you never hunger and you never thirst. Have you ever been hungry? Have you ever been thirsty? Have you ever gone through extreme hunger or thirst? You ever been like somebody in a movie wandering through the desert and totally out of water? Crawling around because you're getting dehydrated? We know what it's like to get hungry. We know what it's like to get thirsty. So this message, everyone does. They did too. They were hungry then. They wanted some bread. So this resonated with them. You will never have to hunger and thirst again if you trust in me. But you've seen me and you still don't believe, he says. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will by no means cast out. And as we know, God draws us to Jesus. No, it says nobody can come to me unless the Father who is in heaven draws them to me. Did you feel something like that when he was leading you to Jesus? Did you feel this tugging, this nudging, this internal desire? He draws us to him. We don't see the workings of God with our eyes. We don't always know how he works. We see a lot of his works, but we don't see his behind the scenes stuff. I can't physically see him drawing me to Jesus. I can't see him throwing a lasso around me and pulling me towards him. So we don't always understand these things. We think, well, no, I made a decision and I did it. Well, really? Did you feel a desire to do it? You think maybe God put that desire there to draw you to him because he wants you to be with him, because he wants you to have this bread of life, because he wants you to never hunger or thirst spiritually? (38, 39). For I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. This is the will of the Father who sent me, that of all he has given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up the last day. God draws us to Jesus, and once we are in his hands, nobody's snatching us out of him. He's going to do God's will, he says. I'm going to do my Father's will. I'm not here to do what I want to do. I'm here to do what my Father wants me to do, and he wants me to hold on to you. He wants me to lose nothing. So I'm not going to lose anything. I'm not going to lose you. There is nothing I can do to save myself apart from Jesus. There is nothing. I can't do a list of chores and get a ticket to heaven. I can't do any of the things in the Bible as far as works go that God wants us to do, and that get me to heaven. And I don't believe that there's anything that I can do that he's going to stop loving me. I'm saved because of Jesus, what he's done. I'm saved because he gave his life. I'm saved because he was the sacrifice for the sins I've committed. He paid my penalty. And verse 40 says, and this is the will of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. That grave is not the end. They can put me in a box and throw some dirt on me, and that is not the end. I know that I've got forever with this wonderful Jesus. I know that he has a home for me. And if we stop worrying about the perishables and focus on the eternal, that gives us a hope that supersedes anything. That gives us a hope that supersedes our worldly needs, our worries. And the closer I've gotten to this understanding, the more the anxieties and the worries of this world have melted away. I still have moments where I'll get emotional about things and react in ways that I shouldn't. I still worry and get anxiety about things at times until I realize I'm doing it. But when I keep my eyes on Him, I don't. That's where we need to be. We need to keep our eyes on Jesus. Because if we're focused on Him, we can't focus on our worries.